This is a video I really wasn't planning to make, but something sort of pushed me over the edge this week in favor of, well, making it. Simply put, I took a photograph that, well, let's just say something was in it that shouldn't have been in it. I don't really see a point in publishing it because for most people, no amount of evidence is ever enough. They always demand a higher standard of evidence than either exists or can be produced quickly. But that said, let's just get right into it. It's a bit out there. It really is, but if true, it would explain a lot. So, some people are familiar with the entity known as Lamb, which was something that Crowley invoked repeatedly in what he called the Almantra workings, which were done in Central Park, West New York City, which was basically some things he had worked through using sexual and ceremonial magic, using Roddy Minor as something like a medium. Their whole idea was to effectively create a portal that could manifest intelligences from perhaps other dimensions, other planes, whatever word you'd like to use. Which, interestingly, Plan It is just plain with a T at the end. Something I find interesting. Now, it's said that the picture was drawn from real life. It's not known whether the entity called itself Lamb or Crowley gave it the name Lamb. It's only known, really, that he considered it to be interdimensional, which is something that has been known about what people call extraterrestrial. For quite some time, it's been known that, well, it's not as simple as being from another planet. At least in most cases that I've researched. It was, if I recall correctly, originally shown to people at something that Crowley had put together called the Dead Souls Exhibition. It was in the same year published as a front piece to his commentary on Blavatsky's The Voice of the Silence with this quotation. Lamb is the Tibetan word for way or path, and Lama is he who goeth, the specific title of the gods of Egypt, the treader of the path. In Buddhistic phraseology, its numerical value is 71, the number of this book. Now that's all Crowley ever really said about the subject of Lamb, at least publicly. And that's all that was really known until his disciple Kenneth Grant, who he actually gave the drawing to in 1945, had begun to talk about it in his own future workings. The rift in between the spaces of the stars created by the Almantra workings created a gateway through which Lamb and other extracosmic influences could enter the known universe. Later, this portal was enlarged by a jet propulsion laboratory founder and rocket fuel scientist named Jack Parsons, and the Scientology and Dianetics founder L. Ron Hubbard in 1946, which some people consider to have led to something of a monumental paradigm shift in human consciousness. They called their magical workings the Babylon workings, which they considered to be a continuation of Crowley's earlier Almantra workings. The idea was they wanted to take the spirit of Babylon and effectively incarnate it. They were going to try and create a spiritual child, or a child in the spiritual world, and then bring it into this world through incarnation. I think Crowley's exact quote on it was, "Apparently Parsons and Hubbard or somebody is producing a moon child. I get fairly frantic when I contemplate the idiocy of these louts." These events took place between January 4th and 15th, the Babylon workings, I mean specifically. They had apparently made the portal much, much larger and seemingly, at least according to the legends, could not close it. didn't know how, or perhaps were not powerful enough to do so, which makes Crowley's comments all the more interesting. What's even more interesting is that about a year and a half later, on June 24th, 1947, Kenneth Arnold had the first sighting of unidentified flying objects, which, by the way, the term UFO is something of a psychological operation. It has been known for a long time that these things aren't exactly flying. It's not as simple as that. And the whole idea is to get people thinking in terms of what it isn't instead of what it is, which is interdimensional contact of higher intelligences, beings that may have once been called gods. According to Kenneth Grant, Lamb is a great old one whose archetype is recognizable in accounts of UFO occupants, and that Lamb is known to be a link between the star systems of Sirius and Andromeda, and also that Lamb has been invoked to fulfill the work set afoot by Aiwass as a reflex of Aiwass. Now, whether all of this is true is, well, I guess open to speculation at this point, but it would certainly explain a lot if it is. Strangely enough, my own experiences sort of line up with this, being that the first time I had ever felt consciously different after meditating was also the same night and immediately afterwards that I saw rays. About 5 or 6 of them with red orbs, about maybe 4 foot tall. It was one of the strangest experiences of my life. It's not something I guess I like to talk about a lot because, well, you know how people are. I honestly wouldn't expect anyone to just take my word on it. I know I never did when I didn't even consider such things as possible. But when you're staring face to face with something that's very clearly not human, it's kind of hard to deny it. For a long time, I tried to tell myself that it didn't happen, that it was a dream, but after so many years, I just couldn't anymore. It became impossible to deny what I had experienced. And if I'm being honest, the more that I research it, the more that I look into it, the more it freaks me the fuck out. But ultimately, I don't think we really have a choice in the matter. I think there are some things that we need to start dealing with. There are some things that we need to start considering if we are to have a future.